There's generational trauma caused by the Holocaust, but the possibility of another Holocaust is currently a traumatic hallucination, whereas another Nakba, a genocide of the Palestinian people, is unfolding in front of their eyes.
So tell us, first of all, why you felt compelled to protest yesterday.
There's so many reasons. So I care about human rights and I care about language, and both of these things are being desecrated right now. We're living in a moment where officers of power are telling us that peace marches are hate marches, that genocide is self-defense, and that Palestinian lives don't matter. And I just disavow all of that. And I go to these protests to say ceasefire now.
And so what was your experience yesterday? I mean, the police perspective is that there were 300,000 people on the streets. The vast majority of them were peaceful, but there were pockets of people chanting anti-Semitic chants, carrying banners with those kind of slogans on, and people, I mean, even wearing things like headbands that seemed to kind of look like Hamas uniform that they would wear. What was your experience? Did you see any of that?
No, I don't recognise that. I don't recognise the way it's being described by Rishi Sunak.
It's recognised by the police as well, though. To be fair, the police are describing it that way too.
Right. I would question exactly how many of the police officers are saying things like that. My experience was of like a very beautiful, very gentle, humanitarian experience. There were cats, dogs, children, people of all ages, people in wheelchairs. I myself am neurodivergent. I have ADHD and autism. I don't feel comfortable in a lot of spaces, but when I go to these marches, I feel held. I feel this supreme gentleness, and I actually feel hope for the first time in weeks because we're showing up for each other.
And for you, did you hear chants of "From the river to the sea"? Did you chant that? Would you chant that?
I absolutely would. Yep. I have Polish Jewish ancestry, and I see no conflict between believing in Palestinian liberation and Jewish safety. And I think it is to misrepresent both faiths to say that those two are not simultaneously possible. From the river to the sea is simply a reference to the fact that the Palestinian people have been living under Israeli occupation. In 2010, David Cameron, who is hardly a rabid left-winger, said that Gaza was an open-air prison camp. Over 75 years, Palestinians have been driven out of their homeland. They've been sieged, blockaded, humiliated, intermittently massacred, and then blamed for their own massacre. And the chant "From the river to the sea" is a freedom song, and it's about being able to live in peace in their homeland, whether that's a one or a two-state solution. And I think anyone who would say otherwise, I would question their motives, and just as I would question Suella Braverman's motives. There's a lot of politics of division. From the river to the sea is just about peace and freedom and liberation.
But that's your interpretation. And we've spoken to many people, particularly Jewish people, who've said actually that chant feels threatening to them. And even if you don't share that interpretation, if they feel threatened by it, surely you shouldn't be saying it, because there's a different way to say we want people to be free without saying that chant, which many people, many Jewish people, British Jewish people, feel threatened by.
Right. Well, I'm a British Jewish person, and I think we also have to be very careful in this moment where an actual genocide is being perpetuated. 8,000 people were massacred in Srebrenica. We're at 11,000 in Palestine, and we haven't even counted the bodies under the rubble or the people who are now dying because of lack of water, food, fuel, babies who are dying in incubators because they can't continue running. And we need to make a distinction between generational trauma. Of course, there's generational trauma caused by the Holocaust, but the possibility of another Holocaust is currently a traumatic hallucination, whereas another Nakba, a genocide of the Palestinian people, is unfolding in front of their eyes. I think people need to look at the news. They need to trust their eyes, not allow their senses to be dulled by fear or bad faith and distracting arguments, because it's, I'm so sorry, I've lost my voice, but it's a question really of our shared and collective humanity and, distinguishing between fear and actual present danger and mechanized violence of a astonishing and unbearable scale, which is what the people of Gaza are currently contending with.
One of the questions which is often posed by our audience when we have these discussions is, and we heard earlier a clip from a doctor inside Al Shifa Hospital in Gaza, which is clearly under incredible strain at the moment. No water, no food, no fuel, no electricity. But he did say in the clip that he sent us that a sniper had fired from the hospital. Now, clearly, the inference there is that there are Hamas militants inside the hospital. That is what Israel says, that there's a huge underground network underneath these hospitals. There are militants within the hospital.
Right. Well,
let me ask the question. I'm just putting that in context. The question that is often raised by our audience, and maybe you could answer that. If that is the case, how is Israel meant to flush out these terrorists, get rid of these people to protect their own country, when they are using people as human shields, what should Israel do?
I think Israel should obey international law. One of the greatest placards at the protest was an Israeli war crimes bingo card. And, it's everything. They bombed hospitals, they bombed mosques, they bombed places held by where, aid workers are. There's nothing they haven't done. And it's a tired old propaganda line. I don't think Hamas are hiding in baby skulls. Like, the list of babies that have died is just unspeakable. It's just one of the things that they say. And I think that we as an international community and we in the media, before we repeat these facts, we should ask for their evidence that Hamas is in all these places, because we just repeat it. And that's just,
well,
I think that's a
doctor told us this morning that a sniper was fighting from his hospital. He's in Gaza now. He's in Al-Shifa hospital. We're not there. We have to listen to the accounts from people who are on the ground and try and piece it together. And the fact that he's telling us there was a sniper firing from the hospital tells us that the militants are inside that hospital.
Well, look, okay, so that's your intelligence, it's not mine. I think it's important to look at the broader picture. 11,000 Palestinians have been murdered in this aerial strike thus far. And we have Prime Minister Netanyahu openly inciting genocide, not distinguishing between Palestinians and Hamas, mentioning the Amalek, which is something in the Bible, which invokes the enemy as the ultimate evil, which the Bible commands must be destroyed down to the last ox and sheep. So I think we need to be looking not just at the Israeli points about Hamas, but let's look at also what they're invoking and then what's happening as a result of that.